As it always did, his mouse cursor hung over the link for custom-made games. He had gone there once before, but one look at the price had changed his mind. If only there were a free sample or demo. But no, once you got past the prices, you had to enter your card details. He didn't have a credit card, and he knew from experience there would be hell to pay if he entered mums or dads. That was one definite way of getting their attention, but it had drawbacks, like having his PC taken away for a week. He sighed. And there was a knock at the door. It opened a crack, and a woman's head poked round it. She had long, brown hair and white-spaced hazel eyes, just like Simon. Simon jumped up. "Mom!" "Hello, darling. Still up?" Miss Dance didn't come in the room. "I haven't seen much of you lately, have I? Go to bed now, and we'll have a good natter in the morning. Good night." The door closed before Simon could get a word in edgeways. He turned back to the computer and logged off. "A good natter in the morning," he muttered to himself. Sure, except that by the time he was up, she'd have some new emergency to deal with, and she'd had already left for the office. Her charity work looked after cruises all around the world. Anything from distressed dolphins to Guatemalan orphans. Anything that wasn't him. He switched the monitor off, and the room was left in darkness. Something was shining through Simon's eyelids. He pried them open and peered sleepily across the room. The monitor was on again, and the familiar bright colors of BetterThanRealityGames.world were splashed around the room. Simon frowned. He was sure he had turned it off. He curled up into a ball and pulled the duvet over his head. Somehow the light still got in, and he couldn't get back to sleep. He threw the cover back angrily. He would have to turn the thing off properly and this time pull the plug to make sure. But then he approached the computer. What he saw wasn't the usual welcome screen. "Hello, Simon. As one of our most valued customers, we want to offer you a free custom-made game. Just fill in the boxes below and your free custom-made game will be posted direct to you." "Free," Simon muttered. One thing he had learned a long time ago was that no successful company ever gave you something that was really free. But he all played along until he found what the catch was, then pull out. So he sat down and placed his hand on the mouse. First, there was all the demographic guff: age, gender, occupation. In other words, stuff that would go straight to the marketing department so they could spam him forever. He declared himself to be an 80-year-old widow employed as a brain surgeon on £1 million a year. Then came the more important items. Your game. Would you like your game to be tame or dangerous? Oh, please, Simon thought. He took dangerous without even thinking about it. Would you like your game to be set in your hometown, a generic town, or a fantasy world? The cursor hovered over fantasy world. Set a game in his town. Yeah, right, Simon snorted. His town was... But now I came to think of it, his town was exactly the kind of place that could do with a game being set there to liven up a bit. So he clicked the Hometown tab. Would you like your game to be reality-based or as real as life? Simon frowned. What was the difference? Then he thought of those tedious arcade games where you control skateboarders zooming forever around a fantasy arena, on an unseen gunman blasting away at crooks and aliens in an endless maze. Those were reality-based, and you soon got the hang of them. Once you realized they were all basically the same thing, over and over. Whereas if anything could be said for real life, it was that each day could be completely different from the one before. So Simon moved the cursor over real life and click. He woke with a gasp. Sunlight was streaming through the curtains, and birds sang outside. The blank screen of the computer stared impassively at him from across the room. He frowned at it. Blank screen? He had turned it off before going to bed, but hadn't he come on again? And hadn't he... He shook his head to clear it. Sure, Simon, your computer offered you a free game. Get real. And then he looked at the bedside clock and leaped out of bed with a yell. He had overslept by nearly an hour. Simon showered, dressed, and threw books in his bag and at warp speed. He would have to skip breakfast. The car would take him to school at River Park, but it was as unforgiving as the school bus. It would leave square on the hour, whether he was ready or not. As well as taking Simon to school, it also had to collect his dad from his daily breakfast meeting. If Simon wasn't in it when it left, he would be in big trouble. But there was one ritual which he had to go through, however late he was. He switched the computer on to check for messages. Hello, Simon. Your custom game has been posted. Simon recoiled. So he really had been offered a free game last night. Strange how he didn't remember going to bed again, but there was no time to think about it properly. He could hear the car drawing up on the drive. He ran out of the room, leaving it untidy and the bed unmade. The servants would set everything straight while he was gone. When he came home that evening, the duvet cover was freshly washed and ironed, and lying on it was a brown paper parcel. Simon put his school bag down and picked the parcel up. He turned it over in his hand. It was small and square, the size and weight of a DVD box. His name and address were printed in neat and right in capitals. There was no return address and no postage either. Who was hand-delivering package to him? He wondered. He went out on the landing. Templeton was crossing the hall, and Simon called down to him. When did this arrive? The butler looked up in surprise. When did what arrive, Master Simon? Simon held the package up. This, for me. Templeton raised his eyebrows. You had no delivery that I was aware of, Master Simon. Simon felt the first stab of suspicion. He would have sworn that Templeton had a certificate guaranteeing his lack of a sense of humor. Could the butler be winding up something? Did anyone got into my room today? He asked. The housekeeper made your bed, Master Simon, Templeton answered. But otherwise, no one. Simon went back into his room and looked at the package. It couldn't have just appeared, could it? Someone must have left it. Could someone have got up here without being noticed by the staff? Or was it just the housekeeper playing her own little game? Hey, get a grip, he told himself. There was no point getting paranoid. What was undeniable was that this package was here right now. He pulled the paper off and held up a DVD-ROM in a plastic case. There was no label on the case or the disc, just the word Simon written in black indelible marker. Would the housekeeper be leaving him DVDs? It took half a second to decide that no, she wouldn't. She had to ask advice on setting the video. She wasn't going to be burning discs in her spare time. Heart pounding, Simon switched the computer on and slid the DVD-ROM into the tray. The drive wired into action and the screen cleared. A message flashed up in white lettering on a black background. It looked like the text on a really old steam-driven DOS computer. Welcome to your game, Simon. So far, so sucky. He had seen better graphics on an 80s arcade imitation game. The message was just basic computer text scrolling across the screen. The welcome message scrolled up and was replaced by something slightly longer. You control the action of a dangerous criminal. The object of the game is to cause as much devastation as possible to the town. Then came a description of how to use the controls, which he could have figured out in his sleep. It looked as basic as the first screen. Simon yawned as he picked up the joypad that he was plugged into the back of his PC. And then the screen cleared, and he sat bolt upright as reality seemed to pour into the room through the screen. Whoa, he breathed. He was looking down the local high street in town. It was like there was a camera there, piping real-time images straight to his PC. It wasn't jerky like a webcam, nor black and white like CCTV. His screen was filled with full-color, high-resolution pictures. His viewpoint seemed to be from about 5 meters up in the air, looking down and along the street. It was the end of today's rush hour. The road was thick with traffic and the pavement were crowded. The sounds that filled this room were the sounds of the high street in late afternoon. The only thing that told him it wasn't live cam was the man standing in the middle of the road with his back to Simon. He just stood there, ignoring the traffic that crawled by on either side. He wore dirty old trainers, well-worn jeans, and t-shirt. You couldn't see his face, just the back of his close-cropped head, looking at his broad shoulders and thick arm. He was the kind of guy Simon might think about crossing the road to a vote. Simon nudged his joypad and the man moved forward a few places. Left, and the man turned left. The whole scene shifted with him, so that the man kept his back to the screen. Now he was facing the shop. No way, Simon thought. No way can they have digitalized the whole town in just a few hours, because that was when he had placed his order just a few hours ago. Did they have templates arranged for different towns? Or at least all the towns in their customer database? But there, on screen, just to the left, was the church with scaffolding up the front. Simon drove past it every day on the way to school, and he knew the scaffolding had only gone up 2 days ago. They must have updated their database pretty fast. Maybe it was all tied into some kind of satellite feed. Whatever it was, he decided that he was going to test the simulation to the limit. They went to such effort to make this seem completely real. It was his duty to try to break it. He set the man running at an easy, gentle lope along the pavement. People quickly got out of his way on either side. Sometimes they looked like people Simon knew, the school librarian, someone who worked for his dad. But then they were gone from view as the man ran on. Using the joypad, Simon turned the man left, off the high street, and tried the park, the river, then a roundabout route back to the town center. The man responded instantly to his every comment, and there wasn't the slightest hint of break between scenes. It was as if everything was really happening down there in the town. The man came to a junction, and Simon took his hand off the joypad. He had tried sending the man randomly around the town. Maybe he should start some kind of strategy. But what? On screen, the man had obediently stopped and was waiting for his next comment. Suddenly, a message popped up in a box. It was the same old font, black and grey background. Remember, Brainiac, you are controlling a dangerous criminal, so do something dangerous. Well, excuse me for leaving, Simon said. Got any suggestion? Whoa. As if in reply, another message had appeared. Why not break in somewhere? You can choose the hospitals, the gasworks, the bakery. Bakery? Simon said scornfully. Sure, all dangerous criminals break into the bakery. But he selected the bakery anyway, because he wanted to taste the game with the least obvious choice. And while he had nothing against the hospital, he might be ill one day, or the gasworks, he had to stay warm. The owner of the bakery in Bruton Street, 2 roads from Simon's school, was another matter. The man was permanently grouchy and seemed to have a personal grudge against all the town's young people. This, Simon thought, could be interesting. As soon as he made his choice, the man started to run back through the town.